Hey there, in today's episode we're going to be taking a look at how this effect is made. This is a rain effect and it's specifically made to be used in Android. It's a rain that's coming with the character and it's completely attached to the character. And when it hits the ground, it will create another effect, a splash effect that is making it look better. If you can see, I don't know if you can see well. Let me um, go ahead in the scale color and probably make it more visible. Yeah, so this is the effect we're having, and these are the splashes on the ground. Sometimes they're big, but um, there's a random number into it. So let's get started. First of all, we have to create the splash emitter. If you want to, you can have all of them together in a system. So let's go ahead and do it that way. So right click Niagara system, this one next, and then probably add a fountain to it and hit finish. Name it ns underline rain. By the way, you can download this game free on your Android device and see it in action. There's got a lot of effects into it. As you can see, there's this huge, good looking water into the game, so you can go ahead and test everything out in your own game. Okay, so we have the effect here. We've named the system ns underline rain, and then we double click on it, we open it. You won't have these things, of course. You've started with a fountain, but let's change things. So the first effect that we have to create is the rain itself. So I'm just going to show you everything one by one. It's a CPU sim. The bounds are dynamic. You don't really need to change the bounds because we're not spawning that much. The emitter states loop duration is 2 seconds and it's infinite. The spawn rate is being controlled by a user parameter. How can you do that? Just come in here in the parameter section. If you don't have it, just find it here, open it up, create a new float, type in float here, create one and name it something. I've named it spawn rate. Just drag it here into the scene. Default value for this one though is 0. If you want to, you can change the default value as well. If you want to change the default value, this is where to do it. You come here in the user parameters, default value is 0. You have a spawn rate. That's what I've talked about. Since it's a rain, in the initialized particle, the lifetime min and max are not changed too much. 1.4 for the min, 1.75 for the max. This is random. It's the default value. The size, however, is changed because the rain is not like a complete circle. It's got a scale to it, so we have to do that. So coming here, type in random non-uniform. The size mean should be 1 and 5 for the y value, and for max 1 and 10 for the y value. So it's always like this. It's always got a scale in the y value to it. The rotation mode is direct angle, or unset should do it as well. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Unset should do it as well. And here's that. Okay, add a shape location to it. If you don't have any, just come in here, type in shape location. It should be a box plane and a box, box size 800, 800, 800. Midpoint is the default value. You don't need a velocity into it. You already have the gravity force, so you don't really need to push it upwards and then it comes back down. It's not how the rain works in the real world. So you don't need the add velocity, just disable it. It's as simple as that. The gravity force, however, is the default effect. If you don't have it, just type in gravity force. I've changed the z value a little bit. In real world, the z value is minus 980. I've changed it to minus 1300. We don't need the drag value, the drag component. Just disable it. Scale color will need it. If you don't have the scale color, just type in scale color. It should be getting everything from a curve, so come in here in the scale alpha, because we want the rain when it's coming down, we want it to be fading out, as if the particles of the water are just getting more far from each other. So come in here, type in curve, float from curve, and then it's always saving in the middle of everything. So in this in the curve, you can right click and add key. Make sure you have a key at 0 and 1, and then a key at 1 and 0. And the scale curve means how transparent your rain will be. I've preferred it to be in my game to be 0.1, because it's like a really subtle effect where in a lot of instances it's not visible to the screen, but there's a feeling to it that a rain is coming, so it's kind of good. So we need this collision effect, so come in here, collision, to make everything when they hit the ground they have to die, and they have to generate an event to create another effect for our splash effect. So collision, we need that. Everything's yeah, we want it to be ray traced. I mean, it doesn't matter. You're working on mobile, I know that. It's not that heavy, so you should leave it on ray traced. If you want to, you can have analytical planes, but it will look worse, but the performance is better. But I mean, I wouldn't do that. I'd leave it at ray trace, the way I did it in my own game, so you can just go ahead and test it out on your phone and see that the performance is not bad at all. And then we want a generate collision event. So when they collide with something, with anything, they'll generate an event that will create another effect. We want this one, generate collision effect event. I'm sorry. This should be enabled. It's enabled by default. You should already have this one, and then we'll want the kill particles. So type in kill particles. You'll have something in here. Just type in the parameter section, just type in has collided and drag this one into here. It will make sure that when they collide, this has particle for every part. This value is for each particle. It will get true, and then it will make sure that the particle that's being collided with something gets killed. The sprite render material is the default material. You can go ahead and play around with it. You can go ahead and add some noise values to it. I didn't do that, but if you want to do that, you are more than welcome. I didn't feel the need to do so. The alignment, however, if it's unaligned, it will work. It's not bad, but the best way to do it is to align it by the velocity, so it wouldn't just rotate unexpectedly, and everything's a default value. Okay, so the next one that we have to create, I'll just go ahead and create add emitter and probably a fountain, because the fountain has everything inside it. So if you don't want any component, you can just go ahead and disable them. The way I did it though, I just create a Niagara emitter in here and drag the emitter into the scene. I wouldn't recommend you doing that though. Fix a Niagara emitter here. Okay. So the properties, this is, don't get confused. This is what you'll have in here. I just want to make everything a little bit easier because I've complicated it unnecessarily. You don't need to do that. So you'll add emitter, you'll add your emitter in here, and then this is the emitter you'll have. Everything's the default value in the properties. In the you won't even have a spawn rate. You need to make sure that it's disabled. If you don't disable it, look what happens. You don't need that. So spawn rate disabled. Initial is particle. You can play around with this size. I've found out that the random uniform and 7 and 20 for the min and max values are fine. We'll need a little bit of velocity because there are two ways to create splashes. One is to use a texture that's aligned with the rotation of the camera, and the other way to do it is to use a mesh. I didn't use the mesh, and I don't think that it's necessary. It's just making things overcomplicated. When something works, just let it work. You don't really need to go ahead and overcomplicate everything. So we'll need add velocity. If you don't have it, just type in velocity and add velocity in the particle spawn. We'll need a make vector into this. Type in vector. It will probably have a the velocity is vector, so you can just come in here and type in random for each one. Random range float. So the velocity has x, y, z, and you can type in random range float for h. For the x value, minus 20, 20. For the y value, so they go left and right in every direction by 20 units. Minus 20, 20. And for the z value, it has to just go up. It goes up, it scales up, and then it phase out. This is how it works. So the maximum amount is 100, minimum amount is 0. So there's a randomness into it. Then we'll come to the box location. You can use a box location or you can use a shape location, doesn't matter. The box size is 10, 10, 10, 10, and 0. If you're using a shape location, it will be a box, and then 10, 10, 0. It's completely the same. Scale velocity. So this is something we have to add. Scale velocity, this one. And then we'll need to, for the z value, for the x and y value in the particle update though. For the x and y value, you don't need to change the velocity, but for the z value, we'll need to add a curve, float from curve, and then it should be. So it's like it starts speedy, and then it slows down. It's like this. We want that effect, and we're doing it with this scale velocity. So it starts with 1 at 0 seconds, and it ends up with 0.2, which, yeah, it needs to have a little bit of speed into it. At this one, so 0.08, it has the speed of this, and the scale curve is set to 1. I'm pretty sure I found out these numbers by just playing around with everything. I didn't have a clear number of how to use it. I just played around with it, and found out that these numbers are the best way to do it. If you're using velocity, you'll definitely have solve forces and velocity, particle state, we don't want that. Scale sprite size, we can use that, so type in size, sprite size, scale sprite size. One thing I forgot to mention is that instead of using the initialized particle and setting the scale to random, you can just not touch the scale, and instead you can scale sprite size by speed. So they have a velocity, they have a speed, they're coming down. It makes them like this when they have a speed, so you can do that as well. I didn't go that route, I didn't need it, but you can do that as well. So the size, when they start, they have scale of 0, but they go bigger as the time moves on. So scale sprite size, you need a curve. Yeah, I'm sorry, it needs to be set to uniform curve. We don't want it to be non-uniform, we want something to be uniform. And starts from 0. Remember, you can add key like this, and ends up to be 1 at 0.7. And the scale color, because we want it to fade out after a while, fade in and fade out. So again, in the scale alpha, just type in curve, add key somewhere, add key 0, 0, probably 0.3, and so I've set 0.05, but instead I could set 1 and type in 0.05 like this. Wouldn't matter, it's still the same. But I'm just because this is like the biggest amount I have, and the curve can be scaled based on the biggest amount, and it will come back to 0 after 0.77 seconds. So we need to add a material to it. This is like the splash material. This is a this one is an image I've downloaded from Google. You can go ahead and type in water splash texture or splash texture in Google and find a lot of different textures for your material, for your splash material. You can do that, or you can create one for yourself by Houdini, by, I don't know, Unreal, Niagara Baker, I don't know. Just you need a texture for a material to be faded in the effect. You'll need to use that that texture. Now that we have the texture, we'll need a material. This is the material I've created. So go to your materials folder, right click material, name it something, drag the texture you have into the scene, hold M for multiply. Oh, this one should be unlit and translucent. Because we are fading it in and out, it should be translucent or masked and their opacity mask. This should be enabled. I'm not doing that, I'm just going to use translucent. And the shading model should be unlit. If it's lit, long story short, you can't use it in mobile, so make sure it's unlit. And we don't want it to be two-sided, honestly. So we want 1 multiply for the particle color, this one. So this one helps us define the color by this RGB one. We'll multiply the RGB from the RGB value from the texture to the particle color, and it goes into the emissive, and 1 should be from alpha from particle color to the alpha of the texture, and this one goes into the opacity. Okay, So one last thing is that I didn't want to have it in all of my map. That wouldn't be optimized. I wanted it to be visible for the player, but wouldn't be heavy on performance. So what I ended up doing was to, as I've shown you, this isn't a really big effect. This only covers a really small area, which happens to be really useful if you put it just on the head of the character. So let me show you that. Going to the character you're using, I'm using the first person character. I mean, I've always used it like that. And just, yeah, exactly. So this is the rain I have. Just drag your rain effect. Let me find it. Just drag your rain into the scene and you're good to go. But make sure that the spawn rate is not 0. It's something like 200, 300, sometimes 500 could be good, could be cool too. And it's attached to the capsule component. What it means is that when the capsule component of the character, when the player moves around, the rain moves around with it, which is nice, which is performance. And performance is what we always want in all of our effects. And that's pretty much it. I hope this video helped you, and if it did, please hit that like button and have a great day. Bye.